So, after Robin, the next in line is Boothill, and in this video, we're gonna discuss how to build him. We're gonna first go through his kit, his Eidolons, then we discuss some build options, proper rotations, and finally, some possible synergies. So leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and let's get started. Starting off with an overview, Boothill is a 5-star physical character following the path of Hunt. He deals massive break damage and can apply physical weakness to an enemy, making him quite versatile for most situations. Looking at his base stats, he has the current highest HP of all Hunt characters. His attack is on the mid level and has okay defense. His speed is 107 and has a pretty low energy cost of 115. Moving on to his traces, he has 2 basic attacks, one normal and one enhanced. The normal one just deals physical damage to a single target. As for the enhanced, we'll check that after his skill. Boothill's skill, Sizzling Tango, makes a target enemy and Boothill enters a standoff state. In this state, Boothill's basic attack becomes enhanced and he cannot use his skill. The state lasts for 2 turns. The enemy target in the standoff state becomes taunted and both Boothill and the enemy takes increased damage in this standoff state. After the target is defeated or his weakness broken, Boothill gains 1 pocket trick shot and dispels the standoff state. This skill cannot regenerate any energy and the turn doesn't end after using the skill. It's similar to how Blade works. You use his skill and then his enhanced basic attack. Speaking of which, Boothill's enhanced basic attack, Fanning the Hammer, deals a ton of physical damage to a single enemy. It cannot recover any skill point and only targets the enemy currently in the standoff state. It's pretty much Blade's enhanced basic attack, but single target. And similar to Blade, this enhanced basic attack also recovers 30 energy. Now to Boothill's talent, 5 peas in a pool. Every stack of pocket trick shot increases the enhanced basic attack's toughness reducing damage by 50%, stacking up to 3 times, which makes it 150%. So at max 3 stacks, Boothill's enhanced basic attack will deal 150 weakness break to a target. Also, if the target is weakness broken, when using the enhanced basic attack, for every stack of pocket trick shot, Boothill will deal extra physical break damage to the target. The max toughness taken into account by this attack cannot exceed 16 times the toughness damage of his regular basic attack. To explain this, let's take a look at the formula to calculate break damage. You can see here that the max toughness of the enemy is taken as a value. But for this attack, the max toughness cannot be over 16 times the toughness damage of his basic attack, which is 480. So even if you attack an enemy with higher toughness than 480, someone like Sam, that attack will still only count till 480 toughness. Lastly, after winning a battle, Boothill can retain pocket trick shots for the next battle, which can be helpful in Sim Universe. Now for Boothill's ultimate, Dust Devil's Sunset Rodeo, applies physical weakness to a single target for 2 turns, dealing increased physical damage to them and delays their action by 40%. There is no base chance for this weakness implant, so this means it's guaranteed to land, regardless of the enemy's effect res or your effect hit rate, which is good for tackling various enemies. And the action delay is great for a bit of crowd control. Lastly, Boothill's technique, Smile. After using his technique, the first time he uses his skill, it will add the same physical weakness from his ultimate to the target for 2 turns. As for which to level up first, as he is a damage dealer, you'll eventually want to max him out. But if you are a bit scarce on materials, then basic attack and the talent takes priority, is the majority of his damage. Then level up his ultimate and lastly his skill. Leveling up his skill doesn't really do much other than increase a bit of damage taken by the enemy, so you can leave it for the last. Now let's look at Boothill's passives. His first passive increases his crit rate and crit damage based on his break effect. At max he gets 30% crit rate and 150% crit damage, for which you need to get 300% break effect on Boothill. I will share some ways on how to get that in later parts of the video. His second passive decreases the damage Boothill takes from the enemies that are not in the standoff state. It's a good way to balance out things. Lastly, his third passive, when obtaining pocket trick shot inside the standoff state, Boothill also regenerates 10 energy for every pocket trick shot gain. This will also work if Boothill is already at max stacks, making it a really good source of energy. For his bonus stats, after maxing out his traces, Boothill gets 37% break effect, 18% attack, and 10% HP. Now let's move on to Boothill's Eidolon and see if they're worth it. His E1 grants him 1 stack of pocket trick shot at the start of the battle. Also, Boothill will ignore 16% defense when dealing damage. It's close to a 10% overall damage increase. His E2 is great for SP management. When obtaining pocket trick shot, Boothill will also recover 1 extra skill point and an extra 30% break effect for 2 turns. This will reduce stat requirements from relics. This effect can trigger even at max stacks, but cannot be triggered multiple times in a single turn. His E3 and E5 are just level ups for his traces. His E4 increases the damage he deals to the enemy in the standoff state but also reduces the damage he takes from them. It's decent, but not much, really. It's like a 6 to 8% damage increase. Lastly, his E6. It lets him deal additional break damage to the target when triggering his talent, and also deals break damage to adjacent enemies. It's a decent damage increase of around 14 to 15%, but it's not that much considering it's his 6th Eidolon. Overall, here's a chart showing the damage increase for every Eidolon. Personally, I don't think any of them are worth spending Jades on. Not even his E1. It does increase his damage by a bit, but it's not that much to be considered worth it. By the way, if you've reached to this point of the video and like what you're watching, consider subscribing to the channel, as it does help this channel grow and motivates me to make more content for you guys. Now let us start with how we can build Boothill. First is obviously relics. Here's a simple point. For Boothill, break effect means crit till 300%. So you want to prioritize getting break effect until you reach that 300% mark. And for that, is no surprise, Thief of Shooting Meteor is the best set for him. It provides a ton of break effect and some occasional energy. Other alternatives are going to be a 2-piece combo with any of these 3 sets. Go for Watchmaker if you want some break effect, and use Messenger if you are lacking speed. The damage difference is not that much between all of these sets. It's all about stats for Boothill. And if you can get 300% break effect or at least close to it, you can also opt for other sets like Physical set or Quantum set. For ornaments, the best is going to be the Thalia Kingdom of Banetry set. Its again gives a lot of break effect, and you do need it to get to that 300% break effect so that you can take full advantage of Boothill's passive. You will need 145 speed to activate the Thalia set, but speed is something Boothill wants regardless if he's using the Thalia set or not. Some other options are the Glamour set and the Rutilian Arena. Both provide decent damage increase to Boothill, but fall short of the Thalia set. For main stats on the pieces, since you already get so much crit damage, you want to have a crit rate body, a speed boots, attack or damage orb, and a break effect rope. For stats, here's a simple build reference. I did explain this part in my first Boothill video, but I'll explain it here again. There are 3 things you want to prioritize for Boothill in terms of stats, and those are break effect, speed, and attack. Some crit rate can be nice, but the first 3 are more important. In this whole video, I talked about 300% break effect, but how do we achieve that? Well, truthfully, I want you to reach at least 250%, and the rest 50% is going to be either through supports or Lightcone. In this chart you can see, Boothill gets 37% break effect from his traces, the Thief set will give 32% more, with the Thalia Ornament set, you get 36% more, and lastly, a break effect rope will give you 64%, with 80% from substats, and you get to 250% break effect. Now 80% from substats might sound a lot, but trust me, it's not. Except the rope, there are 5 other pieces, 5 pieces to get break effect from, and you only need to focus on break effect and speed. No need to look for any crit stats. With his passive 30% crit rate, 5% from his base stats, and a crit rate body, he's already at 67% crit rate. Similarly, 150% crit damage from his passive and 50% base stats, he's already at 200% crit damage. You don't need any more of that. Also, look at his damage output. Most of Boothill's damage is coming from his breaks, and that damage doesn't even need crit stats. So just focus on getting break effect. Reach to 50% break effect on Boothill, and the rest 50% can be obtained from supports like Ruan Mei, who gives 20% from her passives and 30% more if you use the Watchmaker set on her. She also buffs speed, which can reduce stat requirements even more. And if you don't have Ruan Mei, then just use the new upcoming Harmony Trailblazer. He also buffs break effect, and he can give up to 50% break effect to Boothill. And this is how you reach 300% break effect on Boothill. Looking at a build like this might make you guys think that it's impossible for normal players, but trust me, I've taken the absolute worst case scenario with this build. Like, I did not consider his signature Lightcone, which straight up gives 60% break effect, and I'm only adding a single support. You guys can just use both Ruan Mei and Harmony Trailblazer, and you can reduce that 80% break effect from substats requirement to practically 20 to 30%, or you can just get his Lightcone. What I've shown here is the absolute worst of the worst case scenario. Trust me, you guys will have a way better Boothill than this. On to his Lightcones. Well, his signature is by far his best, and the only one that actually benefits his main source of damage, his break damage. His signature gives 60% break effect, lowering his stat requirements by quite a lot. It also gives him 20% defense shred for his break damage, as well as some speed. It covers all the main aspects of his kit, and if you really want to invest in your Boothill a bit more, then I highly recommend getting his Lightcone. His E1 doesn't stand a chance against the sheer value that this Lightcone provides. Apart from this, any other options are just moderately okay on him. None of the other Lightcones really focuses on break damage. So if you're not using a signature, just use any other hunt Lightcone, except the follow-up attack ones, and they will mostly perform the same. Here is a chart showing the damage difference between all his options. The Hertasaur Hunt Lightcone, Cruising Over the Stellar Sea, and Yenshin's Lightcone, Sleep Like the Dead, are some of the better options for Boothill. Now for his rotations. Well, he's a damage dealer, so you don't have to hold back. or worry about skill points. It's a supposed job to worry about SP management. You always want to start with his skill and then use his enhanced basic attack until the target is defeated. As for his ultimate, it only costs 115 energy, which is not a lot. Also, since one of his passive gives 10 energy every time he gains pocket trick shot, you should easily be able to get his ultimate every 2 to 3 turns, which will result in a 1 turn downtime for his ultimate's physical weakness implant. His whole playstyle is exactly the same as Blade. It's all about chaining his enhanced basic attack and skill, and using his ultimate every 3 or so turns, which also makes him really good for auto battles. Finally, let's discuss some synergies. Boothill is a character that mostly relies on his breaks for the maximum portion of his overall damage output, so characters that complement it are going to have the most synergy with Boothill. Taking that into account, for buffers, Ruanmei is the best. She not only buffs break effect, but also gives a ton of damage boost, allowing him to switch to an attack orb if he needs to. Also, she provides some much needed speed, lowering his stat requirements. But the two major parts of Ruanmei that benefits Boothill the most are weakness break efficiency, that will allow him to break the enemy faster and deal more damage, and secondly, rest penetration. For break damage, attack and crit stats doesn't hold any value, but rest penetration is something that increases break damage greatly, making Ruanmei the best buffer for Boothill. But what if you don't have Ruanmei? Well then, the new upcoming Harmony Trailblazer can be a decent replacement. Granted, he won't be able to provide nearly as much value as Ruanmei, but he does buff break effect, which can be really helpful. Other than that, buffers like Bronya and Sparkle can be okay. The damage buffs that they provide might not be as insane as with some of the other DPSs, but the action advance can be pretty good. Even the upcoming Robin can be decent for the single reason of action advance, but none of them come close to Ruanmei or secondly the Harmony Trailblazer. For debuffers, well, we only really have 3: Silverwolf, Pella and Wealth. Silverwolf is going to be the best. She increases Boothill's damage the most of any other support. Defense down and resistance shred are two of the most insane debuffs for break damage. And not only she has both, she can also deal decent break damage herself. If you can pair her and Ruanmei together with Boothill, he will literally start one-shotting bosses. Pella can be good as well, but I think her potential is wasted on a single target DPS. Well can be a decent option with the Resolution Shine Lightcone, especially with Ruanmei, but Silverwolf is just way too good for Boothill. Lastly, sustain. Well, for this spot, you want characters that can generate skill points, cause even though Boothill is like Blade and he doesn't need that many skill points, he is still slightly skill point negative. So for that, the 3 characters that comes up are Luocha, Hushuen and Aventurine. All are great in their own ways, but there's a 4-star that performs even better than them, Gallagher. He's not only a great SP generator, but he also increases break damage of his team with the help of his besotted debuff, and last time I checked, Boothill wants exactly that. Combining all of this, the best team in my opinion for Boothill is going to be this, with Ruanmei, Sparkle and Gallagher. I recommend building some break effect on Silverwolf so that she can work as a sub DPS, and Ruanmei will be able to fully utilize her team-wide buffs. Based on my calculations, if damage is what you are after, then this is the best way to do it. But you can change some of these characters based on your needs. If you want a better sustain, then use Luocha, or if you are lacking some break effect, then use the Harmony Trailblazer. You can choose based on your roster of characters. These are all the synergies that I could think of, but if you guys have any other ideas, share them in the comments. Overall, Boothill is a great damage dealer, with some of the highest numbers I've ever seen in any other Hunt characters. I know Hunt characters are not in the best position right now, but it will change in the future. With the new Hunt focused game mode arriving in version 2.3, Hunt characters will start to shine in a new light, just like how Erudition characters did with the release of Pure Fiction. But those are all my thoughts. What do you guys think about Boothill? Are you guys excited or disappointed? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Also, if there's anything I missed or made any mistakes in the video, I will leave a note in a pinned comment. Alas, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.